screams I have depression. Story 1, losing interest in literally everything and opting to just sleep instead. At one point, I couldn't even bring myself to watch TV or Netflix, etc. I just did not care. Same with being on my phone. Then I lost interest in being awake. And so sleep, beautiful, beautiful sleep, became the answer. So I would say that. LOL. Story 2. Wanting to sleep, but not really. Wanting to comfort eat, but not really. Not wanting to be on your own, but not wanting to be with people either. Wanting to go out, but wanting to stay home. Wanting to have a bath, but not once you're in it. All of the above in reverse and X10. Story 3. I was driving as I frequently do for work and realized I didn't have Spotify or the radio on. I am a music nut. I had been driving that way for hours. Thought back and had multiple days like that. Just wasn't interested in it. That was weirdly a big wake-up call for me. Edit. This blew up way more than I thought it would, so I thought I would clarify since this is getting a lot of exposure. Not listening to music is in no way a surefire diagnosis for depression. Even in my most mentally healthy phases, there is definitely times when I drive, cook, hang out in silence at times. That's normal. What isn't normal is that I've been listening to music since I was really young, and really got into it when I was like 9-10. Music is probably my main hobby. In a job where I'm on the road for anywhere from 30 minutes to 6 hours a day, I listen to music all the time when I'm not on the phone for work. One day, I had been driving for several hours and just felt numb. I had a realization that no music was playing. This got me thinking about how long this had been going on, and I realized I had been driving like this for a few weeks now. I also love to cook and listen to music. I'll sing along, make up lyrics, sing to my son, and generally have fun. I had stopped doing this as well. I was already growing concerned about depression, so I discussed this with my psychologist therapist and PCP. They both agreed, after several discussions, that I am clinically depressed and that not having interest in things you once loved is definitely a sign of depression. So it was one of the first real wake-up calls for me. Story 4. Gradually pulling away from everything. You hang out with friends less frequently. You start doing the bare minimum at work. Eventually, you just stop caring altogether, and all you want to do is be alone. Story 5. There is a version of the 1,000-yard stare folks who have it bad can get, though it's usually only recognizable by others who are depressed or who've been through it and really remember. Story 6. You know that friend who's always checking in on you to make sure you're doing okay? The I got you, don't worry about it friend? The life of the party? The one who's always smiling and joking? Check on them. Story 7. Change of behavior day to day. Someday, the person will be joyful, motivated, and look energetic, while the day after, it will be grumpy, demotivated, and tired. Constant change of mood is a big sign of depression and will have an impact on all others aspect in its life. Story 8. Someone who always seems happy. Nobody is in a good mood all the time, and if someone seems that way, it means they're bearing all the bad emotions to present a strong face. It also suggests that they don't feel like they can talk about it. Story 9. Not caring that much anymore applies to lots of things. So for example, not doing the dishes, living messy, waking up whenever, snoozing forever, waiting for the day to end, etc. Story 10. Someone who stops showing up to things they would normally really enjoy. Depression makes you not find joy in the things you like, which then makes you feel guilt or resentment when you do these things because you should be having fun, which then makes you avoidant of the very things you need to be forcing yourself to do to climb out of your depression. Story 11. Have you ever seen the light leave someone's eyes? Maybe not the point at which it left, but looking at your friend who's been absent, etc. for a while and noticing that their overall feel just doesn't? The laugh seems to come from behind a cheap, invisible wall and die early. Their engagement is surface level and intended only to satisfy the most base level of audience participation for your satisfaction. That's when they're trying. At this point, their psyche is in critical condition. It's make or break. If they get the help they need no matter what form, you'll see the sun rise in their heart once again. You'll feel your old buddy back in old buddy form. If it goes the other way, neither of you find your way back to one another. Sad, sad. Story 12. Constantly listening to music or just consuming media 247 so that you do not have time to think about anything else. To block out the negative thoughts. Story 13. Most normal people don't ask themselves the question, why do I have to exist? While lying in bed thinking about how horrible everything is. Life isn't a fun adventure for us. It's a responsibility, like paying bills or doing chores. Not living, but rather walking around wondering why I'm living to begin with. Story 14. According to the movies, banquet frozen meals. More seriously, there are numerous markers. Lethargy and anhedonia. Loss of interest in just about everything is usually a start. Sleep quality is down, either due to oversleeping and still feeling tired, or difficulty falling or staying all asleep is more present. Either the anhedonia extends to the appetite, or the person bored eats in substitute for other things they used to do. Hygiene drops. Story 15. You know that guy girl who is always trying to cheer other people up without seeming to be happy themselves? They don't want you to feel what they feel. Story 16. Mindlessly indulging in anything for small hits of dopamine. Food, cigs, alcohol, masturbation. You don't even have the standard to feel happy, just not bad. Poor hygiene is a big one. I remember crying after becoming frustrated with getting hair ties stuck in my hair. I didn't have the energy to put on makeup for like a year. Rotting in bed, binge-watching YouTube Twitch content where a person was talking to me made me feel like I wasn't alone. Helped when days would go by where I didn't go outside. Plus, you won't let them down like you would your real friends. Outside, especially driving, feels very loud and too much because it had been so long since I went out. The only energy I had was to be mercilessly cruel to myself because I felt like a failure and compared myself to everyone and made up about what they must think of me. Story 17. You get promoted. Your family loves you. It's spring. Everything is good. You want to die. You have the money to pay rent, but face eviction because you can't walk 20 feet out your apartment door to drop it in the mailbox. Story 18. Wearing the same clothes you sleep in every day. Not showering. Not caring enough to even sometimes brush your teeth. You're not living, you're just existing. I've went through this, and when you're that far in it, takes of a lot to get out. Story 19. That feeling you get when you wake up, and you are deeply and immediately disappointed because you did wake up today. Currently on my 5th therapist and trying to get to the other side that everyone swears exists, where somehow things are better. But life is hard and the call of oblivion is a siren song. Story 20. Dissociating. If you see someone staring off into space next time, they may very well be dealing with that. And it's what I've been dealing with for most of my life. Story 21. Nothing. Just nothingness. Depression doesn't scream. It is silent. Like boiling a frog, it creeps up slowly, innocuous at first. All around are people complaining about their mental health struggles. But slowly and silently, the ones with proper depression just disappear into the shadows. The former group bang on the door of their GP and therapists, screaming about their depression. The latter just muddle along, dropping non-essential activities such as socializing, cleaning, personal hygiene to ensure they can still function at work. The former group, not content about screaming about depression, develop helium in their bodies to enable them to jump around with the greatest of ease. But the latter group fill with lead, heavy lead in their legs. Walking becomes a chore. The effort to get up just becomes overwhelming. The effort to ask for help is too much, so they continue to slide into the dark abyss. Talk about mental health, make it a priority, and if you feel you can't cope, ask for help. The paradox of mental health support. If you ask for support, ask for help, then it's not real depression. Not really, because asking for help at the point things start crashing down is just too much effort. The slide into darkness continues, and self-help is now a distant memory of a time when you had the energy to make a phone call, to make a doctor's appointment, to actually take your medication. The body full of lead finally gets dragged under, deep into the black hole of despair. But it isn't filled with nothing. It is filled with this black, heavy, enveloping pain, where time becomes elastic. You exist in 30-second bursts which feel like an eternity, and then weeks go by without so much as a blink of the eye. All ability to think is erased. The focus and brain function to do the simplest of tasks has gone. You can't watch TV, read, talk, eat, or drink. Suicide is no longer an option as that requires thought. Sometimes the black sticky cloud moves and allows a brief moment of respite to get up and jump out of the window or off a bridge. No note, no warning, no plan. Perhaps a frantic scrawl on whatever is at hand that says, "Sorry." Depression doesn't scream. It is silent. The hand that slowly takes hold and drags you down, silently, stealthily, until it's too late. Story 22. A steadily increasing, all-encompassing apathy. Life loses its flavor. You spend eternity gathering all these different spices for your unique flavor of life, and suddenly your brain goes, "I'm British now," and nothing sounds good anymore. Story 23. I think it hits different for every human. For me is crying in the car on the way to work, crying at work sometimes, crying on my way home and not knowing why. Not wanting to go home, but you have to go because your kid is waiting for you. Fake smiles. Listening to just a type of music. Not wanting to socialize. Pretending to be okay and playful and happy in front of your child because you don't want him to know that you're in pain. Falling asleep within 5 minutes from exhaustion. End of story. Story 24. Anger. A short fuse, irritability, snapping at people. I know people who thought they were just bad because the smallest things set them off. Once they began managing their depression, though, total 180. If you're easily infuriated, talk to your doctor. This is the most common symptom of depression. Story 25. When you laugh really hard at something super dark and go to share it with someone, then you stop yourself because you realize that if you showed them, they could safely assume that you're not chemically balanced upstairs. Story 26. People on Dane Cook. But I think he was the guy to come up with the single guy bit where he described taking a light bulb from room to room based on need. It's not directly what we're talking about, but it's very adjacent and shows how wacky not respecting yourself can get. Story 27. Constantly cracking jokes. I'm always making jokes, especially at my expense. Several will involve my trauma. I didn't realize how off-putting it was to people until someone told me. They were very angry that I kept talking down about myself. I've been clinically depressed for so long that I didn't realize my coping mechanism was as bad as it was. Story 28. Having zero sense of personal style. I'm not saying you must always have coordinated outfits or have your hair done or whatever simple baggy clothes. No makeup, natural hair, just a ponytail, etc. are all styles. I'm talking people that really don't even look when grabbing clothes or don't check their face in the mirror before leaving. When people have genuinely no preference for the color, texture, shape, etc. of their clothes. I understand that most people do not take clothing seriously, but generally there is some preference liking dark colors, only wearing long sleeves, loving Crocs, etc. If you genuinely do not care about a single aspect of your appearance, that's depression. Story 29. Waking up in the morning, realizing you are still there, and then the tears start slowly sliding down your cheeks as you close your eyes again and hope that this time, it's forever. Story 30. Not having the energy to do, watch, listen to anything you usually enjoy. Not having the energy or urge to maintain hygiene. Not having the energy to talk to anyone, even people you're close to. Sleeping a lot because being awake seems exhausting. Listening to really sad and depressing music and relating to it, and/or crying. Feeling like you don't deserve good things. Feeling like things people would be better off without you, and/or wouldn't miss you. The list goes on. Story 31. A severe loss of interest for hobbies and pastimes. Believe me, nothing screams depression more than somebody who's completely indifferent to their favorite things. Story 32. A lot of the time, nothing. It's silent and no one notices, or if they do, they just think you're lazy, a flake, a whiner, etc. A lot of us with depression have been told all our lives that our symptoms are a sign of some personal moral failure, and nobody wants to hear about our problems sew it up. Nobody likes a killjoy. So we learn to hide it really well. We suffer in silence until we can't cope anymore and have a mental health crisis. And everybody is really surprised. I had no idea. They seemed fine. I can't tell you how many times I've told someone I have depressive disorder and they go, "Wow, really? You don't look depressed." Yeah, well, you don't look like a clueless ableist, but here we are. Story 33. So most comments I see are from a first-person perspective. From a third-person perspective, in my opinion, would be someone that, when compared to the past, seems to be neglecting their appearance. Someone that slowly stops showing up to social events. Someone whose reactions seem to be slower, not as enthusiastic as you'd expect them to be. Someone that has all the above symptoms but is still smiling. Keep in mind that is all relative to how the person behaved in the past. Some people are naturally not enthusiastic. This does not mean they're depressed. But if someone has always been a very high-strung person and suddenly they stopped being like that, it might be a symptom that something's wrong when added to others. Story 34. One that I know is a tip-off of my own depression is complete apathy about everything and not willing to even give a suggestion. What do you want for dinner? Doesn't matter. It's a nice day. What do you want to do? Wherever you want works for me. How about this movie? Looks good. Extremely small and can easily go unnoticed by friends and family and even myself, but I've recognized I do it when my depression isn't doing great. Story 35. When you easily look for the bad stuff rather than reminding yourself of the good times. Being alone all the time but somehow having a problem with everyone else. Alcoholism, drug use, crying all the time. I have depression, have had it for years now and refuse to take any medication. It's very hard to explain just exactly what it's like. It's like you're so quick to anger as you think everyone is out to get you and make away with you. But really all people want is a laugh, not harm. But you also don't want to hate anything as it's too much energy to waste on hating stuff when you could be busy loving stuff. Story 36. Obsession with escapist mediums, video games, film franchises, etc. Just to be clear, I don't mean being a fan, or even a super dedicated fan. I mean clearly using it to fill a void instead of passing the time. Story 37. Looking at a box of microwavable corn dogs. Noticing the instructions have 2 steps. Deciding it's too much effort and just going to sleep instead of fueling your horrible meat prison. Story 38. Messy house. Missed appointments. Flaking out on friends. Staying up all night and sleeping all day randomly. Going MIA from social circles. Being unable to pay bills or take care of life in general. Story 39. Hoarding. Not cleaning, not showering, refusing to go out, suicidal ideation, living in the past, huge weight gain or loss. I gained 150 lobs eating 12 ice cream every day. Story 40. Close friend of mine told me I need to unplug for a while and I'll talk to you when I have enough energy for something other than keeping my head above water, maybe some mild to moderate depression on her end. Story 41. The rapid decline in self-care. There was a period where I struggled to regularly brush my teeth and shower. As a 21-year-old college student. Shit's rough, dude. Story 42. Wearing the same outfit every day. Not washing that outfit until the stains become apparent. You get into a texture war with your body, and one particular shirt or nightgown or pair of leggings becomes the only thing you slide on. It screams depression, but no one pays enough attention to notice it, especially if you work from home. Story 43. Being a completely functional and even successful adult but feeling completely dead inside and look forward to nothing in life. This manifests in working intensively during work hours and coming to a complete stop at the end of the day. You do nothing, you want nothing, and you're waiting until it stops. Dead eyes, isolation, and ragged appearance is a pretty good giveaway. Story 44. Socially isolated for almost an entire year now. Very irritable. Very low patience. Poor short and long-term memory, more so short. Super low interest in anything, anyone. Even like going on my phone occasionally. Rather stare at a wall or sleep. Then the anxiety kicks in. I can't sleep without sound or light anymore. I have a fan going, an eye mask even though I need the light in the room, and the TV on low because I need someone with me. Waking up at every hour, vivid, realistic anxiety terror, fueled dreams. Yep, story 45. Being morbidly obese. It's one of those things that's funny. In Austin Power but not real life. In real life, it's extremely sad to see, because you just know the person either suffers from a medical condition or has some serious personal issues, quite possibly involving trauma and abuse. Story 46. Calling into work and watching the 5-hour AE version of Pride Prejudice in bed on a Wednesday. Should I describe the rest of my week or can I stop there? Story 47. People with depression. Typically, in all seriousness, alcohol abuse, secluding yourself from friends and family, constantly comparing yourself to perfect examples of other humans, yada yada. Definitely not talking about me. Nope. Story 48. Not so much a dirty house, but a house where nothing is put away. You just can't be bothered to put the dirty clothes in the hamper. The floor is fine. Sweatshirts, shoe, and plates everywhere. Just everything seems to be left out. Story 49. Talking to yourself. The few times I haven't been depressed, I was always abroad for some reason and not on holiday. I've noticed I don't talk to myself. These days, it's a full-on constant battle of good and evil going on in my head at all waking times. Story 50. Not meeting eyes with anyone. Constantly looking down. Poor hygiene. Lack of interest in things they normally enjoy. Monotone, vague responses, no care for future events, general disinterest. Story 51. Procrastination followed by intermittent panic over the stuff. Procrastinating on, followed by avoidance through more procrastination, and the ring closes and the cycle goes on. Story 52. I'm reading all these comments, and I feel a sense of disconnect, because these comments are who I used to be and not who I am currently. I still have bad anxiety, but I no longer feel constant depression every single day. I've still got a long way to go, but I've found a passion, and am not constantly sleeping 247 and in a state of nothingness. Things do get better. The days do get brighter. I promise. 3 years ago, my death anxiety wouldn't let me take my own life, but I did deal with suicidal ideation and agoraphobia daily. I do hope my message gives people a bit of hope. Story 53. Being disgusted with everything. Nothing makes me happy. Work is my only escape. Sleeping all the time. Not eating much. Losing my hair. Puffy eyes, messy, house, messy car. Story 54. What people who've never had depression before misunderstand about depression is they think it feels like being sad all the time. It doesn't. What it feels like is, after something terrible happens and you have a super hard cry, there's that moment after where you are exhausted and completely numb to everything. Like someone could shoot your dog in front of you and it wouldn't even register. It feels like that all the time. It's apathy perfected with a heaping side of exhaustion. It's horrible, but everything has its silver lining. Looking back on it now, it's in some ways the worst superpower imaginable, because when you truly don't care about anything, nothing can hurt you. There's an invincibility there. Now that I've managed it, I struggle a little bit with anxiety because now there are actual stakes to my life. I'm worried about things because I care, which is a whole new blessing and curse. Life is pick your poison. Story 55. When random stuff and garbage just kind of accumulates around the places you usually sit around your house, mostly in the bedroom, beside the bed. I try to control that habit the most because it causes a lot of shame when you realize there's piles of trash in your bedroom. Story 56. Sitting down when you take a shower, which I didn't know was a sign of depression till my therapist asked me if I did that, and I said, pretty much every shower I take. Story 57. What screams? I have depression. Standing in the corner of the room at a depression screening at one of the hospital clinics with tears streaming down your face. The psychologist took one look at me and said, "You, stay here and talk to me after the meeting." It was the beginning of a total turnaround in my sad little life. It was normal for me to just have tears flowing for no apparent reason. Get the right psychologist and the right meds, and it can change your whole life. In 5 sessions, he was able to give me a new way to think about things that had bothered me since childhood. The meds I started lifted a black cloud that had been hanging over me since I was 2 years old, as far back as I can remember feeling bad. I sometimes wish I could go back and let people from my past see how much I've improved. I was 40 when I finally made the move to happiness, and I'm almost 70 now. Don't waste any more time. Help yourself now. Story 58. I'd answer, but I'm too busy setting up my blackout curtains and plopping on the couch to lie down the rest of the Friday evening alone, watching reruns of my favorite TV show because I can pretend to have a connection with these very real people and feel like I have a life. But yeah, prob what I just said. Story 59. For me, it was huge weight loss without trying. I lose my appetite when it hits, and my doctor going, "Yo WTF" when I stepped on the scale, was a sign to stop pretending it was nothing. I was 125 ubs when I should be closer to 180. Story 60. I usually overthink different situations during my drive to and from work to the point of tears. Not sure if that's anxiety mixed in with depression, but it's been happening a lot lately. Story 61. Having no joy in anything. Stopped caring for anything that they used to care about. Thinking about death all the time and thinking about whether life is pointless or not. Story 62. Having zero interest, not feeling genuine joy, and feeling like most of your emotions are artificial. Also not caring about being hit by a truck, passive suicide ideation. Story 63. One of the #1 things, as many others have said, is the stare. Whether you notice it on a friend or on yourself. The stare that says, "I'm not here right now." Not just spacing out, not just deep in thought, but just as if they're waiting for something, waiting for the end of the day. Story 64. If you hang around subs like Argaming and RPC Master Race, you'll see a lot of comments to the tune of, "I keep buying video games hardware, but I never play them anymore." Sometimes I replay a game I loved from 20 years ago, but a lot of the time, I'll open my library, look at all the choices, and close it. I guess that's just being an adult. I'm 38. I love video games and play them basically every day. But in 2020, when I was on the edge of a nervous breakdown, I did exactly what these comments are talking about. Story 65. Not showering, eating, brushing your teeth, using drugs and alcohol to do basic things like clean your house or talk to people. I'm rail thin and addicted to opiates. Depression is just too much without opiates. Story 66. Rotting. Not talking about sleeping in and staying in bed for an hour or two after you wake up. I mean staying in bed all day, and when you do move, it's to go to the bathroom or grab the lowest effort food item in the domicile and then crawl back into bed. Story 67. Being really deep in it and spending a lot of time watching people. I have a list: not showing up to school. Often, a kind person being very lazy and withdrawn. Rarely talking to people. A soft "I don't care" or "it's fine" when asked about any issue. Keeping their head down all the time. Having a hoodie jacket, other covering on constantly without being cold. Moving very slowly all the time. Dull, lifeless eyes. Very consistent, neutral facial expressions. Bad hygiene. Noticeably close to crying or crying often. That's what I've got now. Story 68. Smiling all the time and being overly upbeat. Cracking jokes all the time. Classic signs of people who are miserably and trying to make everyone else happy with the facade. Examples are Chester Bennington and Robin Williams. Story 69. Realizing that it's been a day or 2 or 3 since you've actually opened your mouth and said a single word out loud to anyone, including yourself. Story 70. Bad hygiene. Not getting out of bed. No desire to eat or binging. Rewatching old TV shows. Self-isolation. Curtains closed. Overthinking. Not crying at all or constantly crying. Frustrated feelings. Anger. Meh feelings. Reliving trauma. Sleep deprivation or sleeping a lot. No need to take care of yourself. Story 71. Another thing my depression caused is that I stopped caring about my relationship with my husband, not because I didn't love him. It's just that I felt very unmotivated and I practically gave up on everything and everyone.